While My Vote Counts fought a long battle to bring financial transparency to politics, the fight is far from over. Last week, it emerged that most political parties had failed to submit their funding information to the IEC 2 months after the first deadline to do so had elapsed. Questions remain as to how the Party Funding Act is to be enforced, as the law seems to leave the Electoral Commission toothless. For more on this, we turn to Robyn Pasensie, the political party funding researcher for My Vote Counts. Robyn, thanks a lot for your time. The Act does more than compel parties to disclose donations. What else does it entail?
So really the Act is about disclosing party funding donations, and this takes in the form of actual monetary donations or donations in kind. So that really is what the Act is about. What it's supposed to do is compel political parties to be more open and transparent about where they are getting their funding from. So I think overall what the Act is supposed to function as is kind of as a stop to the sort of corruption that one might see if you have in excess of private money taking hold in one's politics.
So this is the first time that political parties have had to disclose this kind of information. Have there been any kind of teething problems? And what happens in a situation like we've heard that's been reported, where political parties miss the deadline to disclose their donors?
Well, as you said, this is a legislation that's the first of its kind. So it's absolutely historic in that South Africa has never had the kind of legislation that compels the donors and their donations to be made public to political parties. So that's important. And I think given that it's the first, and this is coming almost 30 years into our democracy, one can expect teething problems. I don't think that that was unexpected for us. But to your point, according to the regulations of the Act, the IEC really is supposed to do the oversight and compliance function for this. So making sure that not only are political parties complying with the Act in terms of what it is that they have to disclose, but making sure that they do that in a timely manner. And if these allegations are to be believed that they are correct, then what the IEC is supposed to do is to investigate these claims. And then as per the Act, they do have the powers to fine those political parties who do not stick to the timelines and do not make the proper disclosures. According to the online disclosure process as well, if a political party fills out the sort of disclosure form and upon review of that, there's information found to be missing or it's just generally filled out incorrectly, the IEC will push it back to that political party and ask them to fill that in properly so that they can be resent to them and the information can be captured correctly. So it really does stop at the IEC's door. However, given that we understand the breadth of this Act and there's a lot that the IEC needs to do, it's important for civil society organizations like My Vote Counts and others like the Coalition on Party Funding that we are part of to also try and apply public pressure on that point of compliance.
What's the reaction been from political parties?
Well, of course, we don't yet know exactly how they feel on the matter, but what we can say is that the PPFA has been in the public consciousness for the past few weeks because it is being used as one of those reasons why some political parties may be having difficulty at the moment in paying their staff or any other overheads and running costs that they may have. But I think the true reactions we will see once we actually have the disclosure and the announcement from the IEC later today.
Robyn, is this legislation sufficient and foolproof? I know in countries like the United States, they've had legislation that makes sure that the funding of candidates is above board, but they've found loopholes and they've found ways around it. Is our system sufficient?
I think it is a beginning, and I think that's important. And I think we should be cognizant of the fact that what the PPFA is drafted to do is to tackle corruption in a very specific point, and that is at political parties, and trying to make sure that the way in which they source their money is done in a transparent and accountable way. I think it would be unfair to look at the PPFA as being an all-encompassing legislation that's going to fight corruption at all levels. And I think if we were to look at it on that level, then no, it is definitely not sufficient. But I will say that the PPFA is a start. And what this means is that we should also be putting together other pieces of legislation or policies that can work together with the PPFA to tackle the more large-scale and entrenched corruption that we see.
Robyn, thanks a lot for your time. Looking forward to what the IEC discloses later today. Robyn Pasensie from My Vote Counts.